So forgive me, I'm trying to play catch up and make up for some of the time that I missed doing videos here. So I don't recall ever doing my final predictions for the NFC South. So might as well give them to you now. And if I've already done them, I guess by the time I record this and I look and bother to see, then I will have done this for absolutely nothing. Wasted time. How terrible. When I look at the NFC South, one of the quirks of this division is that typically there's a new winner every single year. It's always kind of like a revolving door. The one thing that was certain about the NFC South since its creation back in the early 2000s is the uncertainty that every year a different team, every year somebody else is going to step up to the plate and take the reins of the division and win it. Now, last year we had a little bit of a different exception. The Carolina Panthers managed to win it for back-to-back seasons, the first time in the history of this division that anybody had won it back-to-back years. Not that that was necessarily saying a whole lot, granted, because this division was really, really bad. I mean, let's be honest. The Carolina Panthers were able to win the division, get a home playoff game, after starting off the season 3-8-1. Shit. The rest of the division was so bad it didn't matter. I mean, it got to a point in time where the team that ended up with the #1 overall pick in the draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with a few weeks left in the season, were still in the divisional race. That's how brutal and bad this division was in 2014. But Carolina took advantage. They won those last 4 games, got into the playoffs, freaking win a playoff game, and built some positive momentum for 2015, a season they had been pointing to for a while, a little bit more in 2014 anyways. Now, when I look at this division in 2015, you have some quality quarterback play in this group. There's no question. Drew Brees, still an elite quarterback, even though he didn't have a great year last year. Future first ballot Hall of Famer. Matt Ryan, at least if nothing else, a franchise NFL quarterback, perhaps a top 10 guy in the league. Similar with Cam Newton in Carolina. And then the one team that had been lacking a quarterback for years in this division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, may have very well found themselves a long-term answer in Jameis Winston, their #1 overall pick out of Florida State. So you would have to think at some point in time this division would turn it around a little bit. You would have to think at some point in time that there are going to be some good teams in this division because they would be a reflection of the play at the quarterback position, you would think. But sometimes there's more to the story than just that. When I look at the teams in this division, it doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. Sure, the New Orleans Saints have Drew Brees. That is true. But they traded away Jimmy Graham. They traded away Kenny Stills. Arguably their 2 most explosive options on offense. Yes, you can have the arrogance of belief in Brees and the belief in that system, and you have a solid running game with a Mark Ingram and now a signed C.J. Spiller. But again, this is a team that's going to be counting on new faces and new places on that offense, and they've had vulnerabilities the past couple of years on the offensive line, and with an older, smaller quarterback that's not really good on the move, that's got to be a concern if you're the Saints, on top of the fact that their defense that had played so much better in 2014 regressed to more of reality in 2014. I just don't really see where there were a whole lot of improvements made on either side of the ball with that team. Then I look at the Atlanta Falcons, kind of a similar situation. You've got Matt Ryan, you've got Julio Jones, you've got Roddy White, you've got weapons to throw to in the passing game. However, major questions at the running back position. Coleman, it looks like, is going to be the week 1 starter, and he may very well end up taking the reins of the job. But uncertainty is there for sure. This isn't exactly a very good offensive line unit. And if they have any injuries at all, like they did in 2014, it could get even worse than it already is. And they still lack an effective option at the tight end position. It's one thing you had Tony Gonzalez all those years, added another element to that offense. You can give me all that shit about how they value the run block, and the run game isn't very good, and they lost a weapon in their passing and they haven't effectively replaced. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. This is a Falcons unit that has been bad for several years. Now, we could talk about a Dan Quinn coming in, bringing that Seahawks way to Atlanta, but that hasn't exactly worked very well in Jacksonville for that matter. So you can talk about the system and this and that, but at the end of the day, that system works a whole lot better when you have pass rushers like Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. It works a lot better when you have a stud middle linebacker like Bobby Wagner. It works a whole hell of a lot better when you have all pros like Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor in your secondary. The Atlanta Falcons, outside of maybe Desmond Trufant at the corner position, don't have any guys of that caliber on the defensive side of the ball. So similar to the New Orleans Saints, kind of a one-dimensional team and frankly a one-dimensional offense at that. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is a team that's going to be interesting to watch because even though they finished 2-14 last year, they ended up with the number 1 overall pick. They had so many close games that a decision here, a different play call there, a good bounce here, and you're talking about a 7, maybe 8-win Buccaneers team with all the questions that they had at the quarterback position last year with McCown and Glennon. Now, you would think that bringing Jameis Winston in, even as a rookie, being a rookie quarterback isn't necessarily as big of a hindrance as it was in years past because the NFL game has changed, the college game has changed, and all of this and all of that. So you would hope that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have upgraded there. They definitely have weapons on the offensive side of the ball, most namely on the outside with guys like Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson. Maybe a slightly improved offensive line, and a defensive unit with 2 of the best at their position in Gerald McCoy and Levante David. They've got some studs on that side of the ball. You can allow Lovie Smith to coach up that side of the ball. So it's a Buccaneers team that looks to be improved, but probably isn't quite yet ready for prime time. And then you've got the Carolina Panthers, a team to me that is poised for decent things in 2015. Some people think I'm a little crazy for being as high on them as I am. But I look at who they're playing in the division. Nobody really strikes any fear in me if I'm a Carolina Panthers organization member or a Carolina Panthers fan. I look at the fact that the defense is still really good. You've still got Cam Newton. Now, granted, it sucks losing Kelvin Benjamin for the season. That is a blow, and that could end up hurting this team at some point in time. But the cupboard isn't entirely bare. And again, you have Cam Newton. Here's a guy that can make some things happen. The Panthers don't need to score 30 points a game in order to win. They just need to be able to score when is needed, control the clock, and limit turnovers. That's what it is. But when I look at this division, I think the Carolina Panthers are the class of the division, and I think they'll end up winning it. And I really don't think it'll be close. I see them being an 11-win team, maybe a 12-win team. For the moment, since they lost Kelvin Benjamin, I'll say they go 11-5. In the second position, I've actually got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As I mentioned last year, this was a team that I thought was a lot better than a 2-14 team based off of the number of close games that they had that could have went their way. I think some of those games will go their way this year. It's just kind of how football works. And then when you look at the fact that they did upgrade at the quarterback position with Jameis Winston, this is a Buccaneers team that I think goes 8-8 and has a real shot at going 9-7. And at least, if nothing else, finishing second in that division and building some real positive momentum going into next year. I've got the Atlanta Falcons at 6-10. I think this could be a situation where the team plays a little better, is a little better, but the record doesn't necessarily reflect it. I think that's what it is. It's kind of one of these things. You just need to buy a year of time. You hope Tevin Coleman develops and becomes that feature back. You hope that defense improves, and now you get to the next draft, you beef up some on the defensive side of the ball, and maybe you start to think about contending for a divisional crown in 16. And then you've got the New Orleans Saints that, yes, even with Drew Brees at quarterback and Sean Payton at the helm, this is a team to me that just really doesn't have a good vibe surrounding it. This is a team to me that's heading in the wrong direction in a quick hurry. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Saints finish last in this division. I anticipate that they will. I think they will. And I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if they end up worse than 5-11 and they end up with the top 5 pick in the 2016 NFL Draft.